Flying through the trees, swimming through the sea. We're having some fun. We're taking the plunge.
Today, we have a very special guest all the way from Australia. Welcome, my very good friend, Tayla.
Hi.
So, I know Tayla because we were both au pairs in the United States for a year. And that is what today's episode is about, is traveling and working as an au pair. So Taylor, how did you get involved with being an au pair? How did you hear about it? And why did you apply?
Well, the first place that I heard about becoming an au pair, I went to uni for about 6 months and really hated it and thought that thought that I needed a little bit of a change. So yeah, I got involved in that and ended up traveling to San Diego in California and living there for a year as an au pair for 4 little girls. So yeah, it was really good and it helped me when I got home. I knew what course I wanted to do at uni, so it was really good.
Yeah, mine was sort of similar too. I was in university and I was so sick of it. And so
Yeah.
I was just looking up ways to travel for free. I figured, oh, there's maybe I'll stumble upon something amazing, and I sort of did because I came across being an au pair, and I just filled out the application just offhandedly, and then they kind of hound you. You got that too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's why I didn't think that I would do it, and then just to get them to leave me alone, I finished the application and was like, all right, leave me alone. I finished it now. And then yeah, the day that I got matched with the family, I got really excited about it and actually got serious about it and decided to go.
Yes, that's kind of how mine was too. Like I filled out the application and then they had called me and said, "Oh, we want to do an interview with you." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess." I still was like half serious about it. But then when I, really thought about it, and I was like, this would be like an amazing opportunity. And so I was really picky about where I wanted to go. So it took me a little bit longer to match with a family. Definitely wanted to go to California because I mean, living in Canada, I live like kind of close to the east coast of the United States. I got a lot of families in like New York City and Washington um, who wanted to hire me to be their au pair, but I had turned them all down because I was just waiting for a family from California because I had never even visited the West Coast before.
Well, that's what everyone kept saying to me is that LA and certain parts of California just look so much like certain parts of Australia, which they do. But um, yeah, I first was interviewed, well, not interviewed, but I was first talking to a family. It was a single mum with a little boy in Boston. And then the host family that I went with was in San Diego with 4 girls. So complete opposite sides of the country, opposite families.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, I guess I liked that family and went with them because it just seemed too good to pass up. It
Yeah.
was basically the perfect family that I wanted, and it ended up being a really good year. I was probably pretty lucky. Like I've heard a few stories, and
We both ended up being au pairs like practically at the exact same time. I arrived to San Diego a week before her, so we were pretty much there for a year at the same time. And her family was great; she really lucked out. But just like kind of a warning for people, like not every family is great. Like they might come across really great, but they could turn out to be, not a match. And so that had happened to me. I had matched with a family, and they just seemed really perfect. And so I guess that was kind of the case with me. And I had to do something called rematch, where I had to match with a different family. Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's just kind of talk about the process, because you don't just like jump in with a family, you have to go through an agency.
yeah,
Um,
and I think people always ask me is, how do you do it? Do you just go over there? I'm like, no, there's so many applications and
yeah, it's a
things,
lot
and
of paperwork, and I had to like get caught up on immunizations. And but yeah, you go through an agency. There's Like if you are looking to be an au pair in the United States in particular, there's a few agencies. Me and Tayla were at different ones. Mine was called Expert Au Pair, and what was yours?
Mine was cultural care au pair.
There's really only two agencies that take Canadians, and I ended up going with Expert Au Pair because I pretty much went there for free.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. You do have to pay, like when you go through the agency, you start and you like fill out the application and everything. And then you have to pay an application fee.
Yeah.
What was yours?
It was a long time ago. I think mine was roughly 1,200 maybe for the application.
But your program fee that you paid, that covered your flight to the United States, right?
It was my flight to the States, my training. So there was a week of training in New York. It was the week of training with food and accommodation and a trip into New York City. And then the family paid for my flights from New York to San Diego. And then if I stayed the whole year, then that also covered my flight back to Australia.
So, I mean, flying from Australia to the United States is so expensive anyway. So, I mean, you would have been looking to pay just in flights what you paid in the program fee, right?
Yeah, literally a return flight from Melbourne to LA I looked the other day, it's $1,200. So it's,
Yes.
roughly the same price, but
That's how mine was too. My program fee was $500. My agency was based in Florida. And so that covered my cost to Florida for the week of training. It covered training itself. So they put us up in a hotel. And then the family paid for my flight to California. So, I mean, in that $500, I mean, I really got a bang for my buck. I got a week vacation. It was not a vacation, but it felt like a week vacation in Florida for $500. So yeah, we mentioned that you have to go through an agency and all the paperwork and a program fee. And, once you go through that, you start matching with families. And so the process, at least with my agency, is that you fill out like a profile, kind of like a resume, but more like a questionnaire about childcare and stuff. And then like your interests and whatever. And then that gets sent out to families. And then if a family reads your application and they think you're a match, they will email you. And then you can either say, yes, I think we're a match, or no, like keep looking.
yeah, a little bit like Tinder. But yeah, I remember that because my friend and I applied at the same time. So I ended up going in March and my friend didn't end up going until May. So it really depends, but I found that it was pretty quick from the time that you apply to when you actually match with the family.
I think it definitely depends on like the time that you're applying and also like your credentials, your background too. My family really needed somebody that spoke English as a first language, and that's kind of hard to come across with au pairs because it's a lot of girls coming to the United States because they want to learn English. They want to like improve their English. Yeah. But yeah, like being an au pair it's not just to go learn another language. Like it is a great way to like immerse yourself. I mean, you don't have to be an au pair in the United States. Like they do them all over the world.
Yeah.
I had a friend that was an au pair in France, and now she's fluent in French, which is great. But she also got to travel all over Europe.
That was one thing that I found was that non-English speaking girls, they get kind of a little bit put out that your first language was English kind of thing. Because I had a friend and she was at a class and someone said something like, I don't even understand why you're here. You already can speak English.
I think just like being an au pair is a great way to travel because although you are working, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay food. That's all covered by your family. So while we were in California, Tayla and I did some traveling together. We went all over California. But then we went to Vegas together, but then we did traveling on our own too. Where did you go while you were an au pair?
So I actually kind of did pretty well considering that I have very bad saving skills. So I did pretty well for myself. I mean, my host family took me on their road trip up to San Francisco. So I went to San Francisco. My friend from back home was actually living in Seattle. So I went up to Seattle, across to New York, Washington, D.C., New Orleans I saw, to Louisiana. Illinois, Chicago.
Oh, you went to Miami.
Oh yeah, I did. I went to Miami, which was really expensive. I think that might be it.
Yeah, you did more traveling than me. Well, when I was there, I traveled a lot within California. California's a really big state. I went to San Francisco a couple times. I was always in LA, Santa Barbara. Like, a good thing about being an au pair is that your host family will take you on trips with them sometimes. So my host family has family that lives in West Virginia, and so I went with them around Christmas time. It was just after Christmas time. We went over to West Virginia, which was really cool because the boys don't really get to experience snow, so that was really fun to see. And I mean, that's a free trip across the country. So.
Yeah, can't complain.
And like, even Tayla, your family, the au pair that they had after you, didn't they bring her to Hawaii?
They were going to. That's what her bribe was. She tried to get me to stay, and she said that they'd bring me to Hawaii with them, but I didn't take her up on the offer. I went home, but if I had have stayed, I would have got the free trip to Hawaii.
But that's the thing about being an au pair, is that like, you just have, like, you're making money to travel, essentially. Like, most girls who go over to be an au pair, I mean, some girls go over to send money home, but it doesn't happen very often. Most girls being an au pair are there to travel. And so they have like this pocket money to just, that's like, your responsibility is to work, take care of the kids, and then travel. I mean, but another like miniature responsibility while you're an au pair, at least in the United States, is you have to go to school. But
great time.
I kind of found a loophole with mine because with my family schedule, my schedule was kind of all over the place. I would like work every other Monday and like sometimes on Friday. And so I couldn't really have like a normal school schedule. And so I did weekend classes. And so I went to school. It wasn't even a school. It was like at a hotel for like it was like a course. I don't know. And it was just a weekend, and your family pays for it. Part of the au pair program is that your family will put $500 towards school for you. So if girls or boys, there were some boys au pairs. That's something to mention. You don't have to be a girl to be an au pair.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, my first friend as an au pair before Tayla came was a boy au pair. So there's not very many of them, but they're there. You don't have to be a girl. Yeah. His job was to hang out with a 13-year-old boy. And so there was no real like diaper changing or even babysitting. They'd like go out and play basketball or go to the skate park or go to the beach. And so he lucked out with a really sweet job as well. So what's like a really difficult, what did you find was really difficult being an au pair? What was the hardest thing?
The hardest thing is probably discipline, I found. Like, if you didn't agree with how the parents chose to discipline the child, it was kind of like, well, I'm with the child a majority of the time, and the way that you're disciplining them isn't that effective. Like, I'm not a parent, but the time that I spend with them, and it just, that was really difficult for me. Just, you know, like biting your tongue and being like, no, that's the way that it has to be done, kind of thing. But that was really the only really difficult thing that I had to deal with. I mean, we were really good with communication and things like that.
The hardest thing for me being an au pair was living where you work. Like when you're off work, you're kind of still at work.
Yeah, because the kids as well, I think, because we both had really young kids that we had to look after. So it's kind of like they didn't really understand that, you know, at this time I finished work, so leave me alone kind of thing. They were still, I'd get knocks on my bedroom door on Friday morning when it's my day off. Tayla, can you do this? I want Tayla to put my shoes on. No, I want Tayla to do that. And I could hear them. I was laying in bed and I could hear them fighting in the kitchen. It's
hard because you don't really feel like you get to relax. And so I think I would have enjoyed my job a lot more if I had gotten to live somewhere else.
I missed so bad. I missed sleeping in because it'd be my day off. But when you live in a house with 5 a.m. every morning, regardless of it, whether it's your day off or if it's a holiday, just running up and down the hallways, crying. So, yeah, that was probably a hard thing as well.
So then what do you think is your favorite thing about being an au pair?
I just loved my girls. I loved them so much. That was probably, because I got so lucky with them that,
Mhm.
like, I still talk to them and send them. I still get presents in the mail and letters and cards, and it's good that I made that good connection with them. But also with the States, like everything's so close.
Yeah, like
So
you
that
don't
was,
even have to like fly places. Like you can take the bus, you can take the train.
yeah,
Um, you can like drive a car. Like the nice thing about being an au pair too is that most of the time the family either gives you a car or you share a car with them. And so even with my time off, my host dad would let me use his car, and we'd like drive to Disneyland or we'd drive to like Santa Monica, and that was really sweet. So that's definitely a perk of being an au pair, is that you more than likely have access to a car. And the nice thing too about being an au pair is that, well, most of the time there's other au pairs in the area,
yeah.
and so you kind of have like friends sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, and that was a good thing as well. Most agencies have, well, I know my agency had monthly meetings that were compulsory. You had to go to this monthly meeting, and it was always at something interesting like the Flower Festival or Little Italy Festival, whale watching, those kind of things to get you out of the house and to meet other people that are in your situation, which I always thought was really good. Yeah, and I found it was one of those things where it's like everyone is in the same situation, kind of. They're in an unfamiliar place. They're probably homesick as well, missing their
Yeah,
friends. Like no one really goes there and knows anyone, so everyone's probably more willing than normal to make
everybody
friends.
wants to make friends. So yeah, that about wraps it up. A great way to travel for practically free is to be an au pair. So if you are interested in being an au pair, I highly recommend searching the different countries and their agencies to be an au pair. If you want to be an au pair in the United States, I highly recommend my agency. It's called Expert Au Pair. They take girls from every single country in the world, and they are really great, and they're just very helpful. They get you situated in the United States. And so, yeah. Any last words?
I would say just do your research. Make sure that the family you're going with, maybe talk to their previous au pairs or, get a little bit of an idea of what you'll be in for, because I found that some people were in for a little bit of a rude shock. So just make sure you do your research and don't settle. Make
Definitely
sure
do
you
not settle.
push.
Don't go with the first family that contacts you unless you really feel a connection with them. Like if a family contacts you and you're like, "Well, I kind of just want to go." Like don't do it. Like this is a 1-year contract. You're living where you work. You have to really enjoy this family.
Yes,
And so
exactly. But
definitely know what you're getting yourself into.
yeah, other than that, yeah, just do it. This was a really good thing, I think, for me. Like, I figured out now what I want to study. I made friends in all different parts of the world. I've seen different parts of the world. It's one of those things that it sounds really cheesy, but it literally does change your life.
Yeah, the experience of being an au pair, you really grow, you find your independence, you learn so much about yourself, like, and so as much as it's hard, it's really great. The positives outweigh the negatives, definitely, in the au pair program.
Yeah.
You get to travel all over, you meet friends from all over, and you really it's just a great experience to if you're looking to find your independence and you're looking to grow and maybe see like, oh, I don't know what I want to do with my future. Just do it. Just take that plunge. So again, thank you to Tayla for talking to us today.
Thanks for
And
having me.
no, of course. And this has been episode 2 of Taking the Plunge. We'll talk to you next time.